I'm so sorry I'm late. I am so sorry I'm late. I feel like they haven't exactly forgotten its existence, because if I'm not mistaken, they did include The World Ends With You as like a world in Dream Drop Distance in Kingdom Hearts. If that actually makes any sense. That is true. They did include, what is it? Oh my god, I feel like I need to be shot. I forget to do the most important thing, which is including the goddamn model. I really need to shoot myself. I have never been this unprepared for a stream. I feel disappointed in myself. I mean, it was nearly 10 years ago, but at the same time, wait, why is my model not moving? There we go. Professional streamer. This is nowhere near professional at all. This is nowhere near professional. I have made so many mistakes on top of mistakes. That is crazy. I need to fucking shoot myself. But at least I'm not as suicidal as Eden yesterday. She did crash out hard, unfortunately. But at least I have now retaken over the stream once more. But would you believe it? I tried launching my multi-chat software that I've been using. For those who don't know, I've been using StreamerBot. But for some reason, it was not working. Like, when I tried launching the software, it just won't open. I don't know what exactly is going on. I've tried clicking the button like about, I don't know, 5, 6, 15 times, and it just won't open. Oh no, I'm not denying it was a valid crash out, because holy shit, some of those matchups are pretty bad. Like, I had never played Rivals of Aether before, but I really wouldn't be surprised that, I really would not be surprised that this is the, game. Especially since it was very clear there was some favoritism going on with some of the players on it. But to make matters worse, I've now essentially ended up streaming at the same time as Pippa, and I feel extremely disappointed in myself, because not only am I late, extremely late, I knew I should have went to bed. I knew I should have went to bed. Because I woke up, and it turns out I was extremely late, so I had to get prepared so quickly, but I had to end up delaying stream as a result. I'm actually frustrated. I am legit frustrated. Like, even though it sounds like I feel well rested, I'm not happy. Shut the actual fuck up, hero. It's my fault, I know. I am not doing that again. Ask her to read. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't. We've already had that song and dance once. Please don't, Miles. We already had that song and dance once. I'm good. I think it kind of goes to show that in some ways I do prefer it small. But also, I think this also serves as a very important lesson. Even when somebody big raids into you, it could like give you like a small momentary amount of growth. But at the same time, if you have nothing else to show for it, why are people going to stay? Because as of right now, I'm only streaming. I'm not putting out any video content or anything like that. I'll put it this way. In some ways, sure, I still have a preference of doing it small because I'd rather build up my growth slowly but surely than having it just fall into my lap one day. I think in some ways that's a bit more rewarding to building yourself up to overnight success rather than, being successful instantly like a lot of other people have it. Because I think if I was granted success in one sitting, I probably wouldn't be able to handle it very well. But that being said, I'm not saying I appreciate it. By all accounts, I think when Pippa raided me that day, it gave me a huge amount of motivation. So for that regard, I'm thankful to her for sharing her community with me. And right now they're all having fun with Pippa, and that's all cool and all. But I have you guys. I have you guys and those who decided to stay with me. I appreciate everyone here that's decided to stay with me so far. Now, with that being said, I'm also in the works of building up a few collabs. I've decided that I'm now in a position where I feel comfortable enough to collaborate with a few amount of people. I don't think I've got enough of a universal karma to pull it off. No, Mild, you've done enough. You've done enough. You've done enough. I'd say you've done enough. What are you owing for, hero? But to put it simply, I am building up for a few collabs, and at some point, like, I'm getting comfortable doing those. So I will possibly open the door to possibly talking with a few others to probably do some collabs with. Like, I have a few friends. I heard collabs, I'm hiding. Wait your turn, hero. Wait your turn. But I am building up a few collabs with a few other people. And that'll be pretty interesting to do at some point in the future. But today, I think we're just going to keep things chill. And keep it relatively simple. Keep it relatively clean. I'm not too fussed with, keeping it relatively small. Especially for those that are here for me. But with that being said, let's go react to some stuff. I'm actually going to be reacting to a couple of things today. You gotta love ad blockers, man. Have you ever seen those anti-ad blockers or whatever? So strange. All right, let's go launch my window. All right, here we go. Nobody saw that. I'm kidding. But anyways, I got some news over here. So first things first on the docket, I saw this on my timeline, and apparently this has something to do with Pokemon once more. A little bit of gaming news, a little bit of YouTuber news here and there. But to start things off, we got this article here from Game Rant. We gotta thank Central Leaks for that one. I don't think it's particularly safe to launch a window. Boo! Tomato, tomato, tomato. But anyways, here's our first headline. Nintendo's monster catching patent rejected over Pokemon fan game. I mean, just the fact that they wanted to launch a copyright patent over the idea of monster catching is really wild. But I'll continue here. The Japan Patent Office has rejected Nintendo's monster catching patent application after an examiner cited footage from a 2013 Pokemon fan game as prior art. The decision is significant because it uses an unofficial Pokemon project as evidence against an application from the same patent family, as the two patents Nintendo is seeking to enforce is against Palworld developer Pocket Pair. In spring 2026, Nintendo filed a patent application covering a touchscreen-based monster-catching system that some industry watchers interpreted as a potential threat to Palworld Mobile. I'm guessing because their mobile games are not selling very well with, with Pokemon Go, I think is their only, well, it's Pokemon World, Pokemon Sleep, and I think Cafe Remix, and probably Pokemon Unite, and maybe Pokemon Champions as their mobile-only games as of right now. So I'm guessing those ones have not been doing particularly well. So they're probably trying to discard their competition. Whoops. The filing, identified as application number 2026-019762, was not directly involved in the ongoing lawsuit against Pocket Pair, although Nintendo described it as belonging to the same patent family. It covered mechanics including touchscreen movement, capture items, summon battle creatures, command selection, and catching field characters both in and outside combat. Did you see what the patent proof was? I don't think so. It only talks about the patent application and the application number over here. I've not looked at the actual document that it is covering. I only just saw this recently, and I'm just only now looking at this for the first time. So this is completely blind as of right now. So Pokemon Generations fan project cited as prior art in Nintendo patent rejection. After the application was initially rejected in late April 2026, Nintendo received another rejection in mid-July 2026. According to Japan Patent Office filings obtained by Games Fray, the examiner maintained that Nintendo's claims lacked an inventive step because they combined gameplay and touchscreen techniques already demonstrated in earlier material. Notably, the cited prior art included not only titles from third-party publishers, but also a Pokemon fan project titled Pokemon Generations. The JPO specifically cited a June 2013 YouTube video titled Pokemon Generations 3D Indie Pokemon Gameplay, which let's actually quickly have a look at that. Let's quickly have a look at that video. Okay, why is the... Sorry. There was no audio.
I'm bringing you this awesome new game for you Pokemon fans out there. It released last night around midnight. It's called Pokemon Generations. And basically, what this indie developers, what they did was they took Pokemon and they made it like a 3D version. It's really awesome. It is not even close to being done. As of right now, there's basically just this little tutorial area, and a lot of the features down here don't work.
You can tell this video is so 2013 because of the audio quality and the commentary, especially during that time. It's insanely ironic. It's ironic how archaic Japanese patent copyright laws are, and yet it's putting in work to prevent what Western patent copyright laws would have allowed right now. It's pretty true. If I'm not mistaken, copyright law in Japan is drastically different from what it is in the West. The West is a lot more open in terms of fan works and what is essentially allowed, while Japan seems to be a lot more strict with fan games, and they're basically disallowing that a lot more. Nowhere is that more obvious than the amount of fan works that Nintendo has essentially taken down. Does anyone remember Pokemon Uranium? I do. That was one of the best Pokemon fan games out there, and now you essentially can't play it anymore because Nintendo and Pokemon Company took notice and they were like, nope, shutting you down, shutting you down. Fuck's sake. And then, wait, what are you saying Nintendo claimed made it? Did they actually do that? I think we'll get into that after a little bit.
Only the Pokeballs work. Bag, trainer card, save and load options, and Pokédex, they don't work yet. But it automatically saves, so you don't really need to worry about that. Something really cool is you can connect to different servers and stuff. You know, you can spectate. Basically, if you join a server, you can spectate battles and stuff. And you can also be either blue or red. And I'm just gonna start single player, show you. This is red, which is Ash. And then you can be blue, which from the anime is anime, whatever, is Gary. But obviously you don't want to be Gary. You want to be Ash. Ash, catch him all, doing it. Pokemon. And you move with WA.
Pokemon? I kinda want to steal this video and put sound bites out of it. Pokemon? Pokemon?
And you can use the left click to sort of move the screen around, or you can hold right click and then hold left click, and then you can just turn the mouse. You don't even need to use WASD. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you here is how to actually catch a Pokemon. Now you can catch them and you can battle, but there are only a few Pokemon in the original Star.
So that's the touchscreen thing that they were talking about. Essentially, you have to click to essentially run. You don't even have to use WASD. So this one's purely using the touchscreen aesthetic. I'm not gonna play the most of the video, but this is sort of just giving us a general idea. I'm sure there's more to the gameplay aspect.
Starters.
Apparently, there's like multiple chapters in this thing. But anyways, we'll continue here. They use this video as proof that they own the patent. I'm probably sure that's going to be their only argument as of right now, because technically it's a fan game based on Pokemon, so they're probably going to try and argue the fact that because it's a fan game related to their work, they own this particular game. That's probably the argument they're going to try and make. The JPL specifically cited a June 2013 YouTube video titled Pokemon Generations 3D indie Pokemon Gameplay, which was published more than 8 years before the application's December 2021 priority date. Nintendo reportedly argued that the footage should not qualify as prior art because the fan project infringed Pokemon-related copyrights. Yeah, see? I told you they were going to try and make that argument. The examiner rejected that argument, finding that the alleged infringement did not alter what the publicly available video demonstrated, that some of the systems Nintendo sought to patent were not unique or original in any sense. Get caught and get got, Pokemon Company. This kind of just goes to show that you're essentially going to be losing that battle. Uh-oh. This is not the first example of a Pokemon-related fan project being cited against a Nintendo patent. Invalidity arguments filed in February 2025, Palworld developer Pocket Pair cited one of Pokemon-themed mod for Dark Souls 3 as prior art against Nintendo's patents. Pocket Pair argued that the 2020 mod in question, Pocket Souls, demonstrated several previously established monster capturing mechanics. Example, selecting field targets and displaying the likelihood of a successful capture before the 2021 December priority date of Nintendo's patent family, which I think was around that time when Legends Arceus was released. Hold on guys, give me a second real quick. All right, sorry. Just had to get something real quick. Let's rewind last night. Remember when Planet X captured Rodan in Godzilla that was released in 1970? So even then, Nintendo can't claim it because of that. And it was monsters captured in balls. Well, monsters captured in they were essentially in like these special shields or whatever, right? And they were basically captured by aliens. So it's pretty much a very similar concept. So monster catching is not exactly a very unique or original concept. With Pokemon, when it was first implemented in 1990s, the whole concept of how Pokemon came to be was actually because of catching bugs. And it was also stated that the Pokemon designs had to look a mix between bland and not something super unique. Because they wanted to make sure that the characters are instantly recognizable. That's why, for example, Charizard, not exactly a very unique art concept, but it's recognizable because you see it, the orange body, the dragon-looking creature with the flaming tail, and people instantly go, "Oh yeah, that's Charizard." Like everyone will know it. Reminded that Nintendo had started holding off on their aggressive lawsuit nonsense until the Smash community ruined their relationship. Wait, the Smash community did that? Oh yeah, that's right. Because, for example, the Smash community did that to themselves, and Nintendo was trying to hold off on that in relation to them. But because of how they were essentially doing things, it makes sense that they would be, a lot more aggressive in that regard. Other older mobile games also weakened Nintendo's patent claims. The Pokemon Generations footage was only one part of the JPO's analysis. Others cited material including coverage of Arc Mobile and PUBG Mobile, some official information about Pokemon X and Y, another Pokemon gameplay video, and several earlier Japanese patent publications. Losing to Arc Mobile and PUBG Mobile is wild. The JPO examiner did not identify every claimed element from the application in a single source, but instead the examiner concluded that a reasonably skilled developer could readily combine established touchscreen controls with known gameplay mechanics, including capture attempts during battle and determining whether a thrown item succeeds or fails to create the type of creature capture system Nintendo sought to patent. The refusal ends the application's ordinary examination, leaving Nintendo 3 months to request an appeal trial before a JPO panel. The company could also pursue narrower claims through additional divisional application, provided it is not ready to abandon the filing altogether. And here's what I think. They're absolutely going to try and appeal because they're not going to go down without a fight. It's kind of sad, but they're absolutely not going to make sure not to go down without a fight. And it's so silly. I noticed that Nintendo is starting to change their ways, and then the Smash community destroyed Panda Global. For those in chat that don't know what Mild is talking about, a long time ago, there was a Smash tournament that was going to be officially sponsored by Nintendo, and what happened was the relationships between Nintendo and Panda was essentially in good standing. But it seems, but other Smash tournament organizers such as Smash World Tour had gotten jealous. So I'm going to show you the video real quick so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So here's the video in question.
This video was brought to you by Incogni. I discovered the real reason why Nintendo shut down Smash events. It involves commercial licensing, broadcasting rights, yours truly, and of course we can't forget the Smash community itself. While I have found some exclusive information regarding a scam that might spice this story up a little bit, I'm very late to the topic, meaning that it's already been covered in incredible depth by other people.
Nintendo had an accomplice, and in fact, the Nintendo sidekick may have actually been the greater villain in this story.
Actually, this particular story is why I do not take Charlie seriously. He knows absolutely nothing when it comes to the inner workings of the Smash community. along with Ludwig as well, because Ludwig also used to be a part of the Smash community, and people seem to forget that he essentially listened along with Slime to not view the evidence against a liar who had essentially thrown false allegations towards Sky Williams and Zero Wondering, two prominent Smash players who have essentially had gotten their lives ruined because of false allegations involving pedophilia, rape, and all the other stuff. For a time period, Sky Williams was also known as the Epstein of the Smash community, which was a wild claim in the first place, and also what ended up not being true. If you go down the Smash community rabbit hole, it gets very intense.
So I won't bore you guys with all the details, but let's go over a quick summary so everyone understands the gist of what's going on here. For the quick rundown, let's go to my partner in crime, Franchise, who's already made a comprehensive breakdown of the entire situation.
Alright, so Smash World Tour claimed that Nintendo wouldn't let them operate without a commercial license, which begs the question, how easy is it for event organizers to obtain licenses? Obviously all the tournaments on the Panda Cup were licensed by Nintendo, but even non-Panda Cup events like Genesis, Shine, Riptide, and Low Tide City were able to obtain licenses in 2022. Even Generation Esports, a random org you've probably never even heard of, was able to partner with Nintendo for a middle school esports league in the following year. It's important to keep this in mind because it's not like Nintendo's licensing was some Panda exclusive thing. Shortly after announcing their partnership with Panda, Nintendo reached out to Smash World Tour to offer them a license agreement. So when Smash World Tour announced a year later that they couldn't secure the license, it seemed like Smash World Tour just fumbled the negotiations. But instead of elaborating on why their application was denied, Smash World Tour instead chose to shift the focus onto Panda Global, accusing them of undermining Smash World Tour's relationships with other TOs in the community. Even though Smash World Tour themselves would later clarify that Panda had little to no involvement in the situation, they still insisted on name-dropping them in their statements and demanding a response. Losing Smash World Tour was already bad enough, but it was compounded by hordes of harassment towards Panda Global and their employees as a result of the accusations, leading to the complete collapse of not just the Panda Cup, but the entire Panda Global organization. Panda tanked so hard that they were forced to lay off all non-essential staff and completely downsize their operations. I made a few videos last year covering the whole situation in detail, so if you want to learn more, you should definitely check them out after you finish this one. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Now back to the video.
So that's the short overview of the situation in particular. There's actually a couple key sections that I actually want to highlight here that makes the situation a lot more worse. So what you essentially heard was how Panda Global was able to secure an official Nintendo license for an official esports cup, and it was only going to be held in America, which makes sense, right? They basically wanted to test the waters, and then they didn't have any plans to do something like, something global. Smash World Tour wanted to secure licenses to do Smash tournaments all across the globe, and usually organizing licenses to do it in like every single country is harder than it sounds, especially if you understand the legal workings of how Nintendo essentially works. Now, I myself don't know the specifics of it, but I understand that it's a very lengthy process, especially when it involves a big company like Nintendo. And out of jealousy for Panda Global essentially getting the first blood, they decided to band together, especially Smash World Tour, VGBC, these particular tournaments, to basically band together and to just completely annihilate Panda's reputation with over-exaggerated claims and even false allegations. It's incredibly petty and incredibly so stupid. It was unbelievable how far this essentially went. There is more to this particular story, and I will highlight some certain sections so that people understand some ways why this particular situation makes it worse, and why it explains a little bit about Nintendo's aggressive lawsuit runs as of late.
Thanks, buddy. Knew I could count on you. Is Panda Global, or more specifically Dr. Allen, really...
Okay, so not this section. It was... I'm trying to find it. Right here. So this particular section here.
Statement also said that the CEO of Panda warned that they would get Nintendo directly involved, putting broadcasting rights for all tournaments in jeopardy. Dr. Allen was concerned that there may be a legal issue that could escalate in the future regarding broadcasting rights and Nintendo. As it stands right now, Nintendo has done a massive change regarding their policy for tournaments. As an organization, you have to get a license from Nintendo to make any kind of significant money at your events. Considering the fact that every single tournament hasn't shut down and there isn't a Smash apocalypse going on, I don't know how getting the company who owns the IP for the game involved in the broadcasting rights of their own game would jeopardize all tournaments. The only way them getting involved in broadcasting could be an issue for tournaments is because the tournaments don't actually have a true legal ownership of broadcasting rights. Why would they? They didn't make the game, so I don't know how they could control the broadcasting of it, but right. There were some exaggerations on Dr. Allen's side, exaggerations on VGBC's side, and Beyond the Summit wasn't guilt-free either. Tensions were running high, and people have a very tenuous relationship with Nintendo. However, I'm not here to spend an hour picking out missed details and half-truths. Rather, I want to get to the bottom of why everything really fell apart. In order to do that, I first need you guys to understand a scam that's been operating in the Smash community for quite some time.
So this particular scam that is going to be talked about here is about what you heard earlier about broadcasting rights. There is a specific license that Nintendo has along with that. But this particular scam is pretty egregious, and you'll definitely understand why as soon as I play these next few minutes. And then I think after that, there is this section here around the VGBC denied license and the boycott section leading up to everyone loses and the real culprit. And this last section here, the gamble. So let's go play through this together. My point is bringing this up is that you can see Nintendo trying to make changes and the Smash community destroy the trust that was being built up. Correct. And realistically, the community essentially did that to themselves. Though I'm not exactly understanding how... Because also one thing to note is that before this essential thing with the Smash community happened, they were still taking down fan games by their own accord. And it's usually, Mario fan games related to Mario World, even games built from the ground up, or, emulators, ROM sites, or things like that.
After I was hosting a watch party with my viewers for one of their tournaments main stage, I was messaged by their official account stating that I was not permitted to do so unless I acquired a license. I wasn't sure if this was simply a formality or if there was any associated costs, so I reached out to a few top players and community members to understand what was really going on. Apparently, Beyond the Summit was charging individual creators anywhere from $1,000 to $1,300 for a license to host a watch party. I'm not even...
Okay, so you heard what he just said, right? Why the fuck would you pay $1,000 or $1,300 just to watch an event live stream? That makes absolutely no sense, especially since Nintendo admits that they basically don't disallow anyone from, streaming streaming tournaments or whatever.
Even sure if that's per day, because according to one of the messages that they sent my source, they're talking about $1,000 for the final day of the event. Oh, is it only $500 for the day before? Thanks. Oh, wow. How generous.
Hey Anon, sorry to bother and be a bearer of bad news. Full streaming rough. You can pay for it and talk to our sales team.
Look, Beyond the Summit knows times are rough, but to
Sorry, I had to skip the joke. I apologize.
stay consistent with the people that already paid, they'd only charge a humble $1,000 for the...
And here's another thing. Apparently other people paid for this. And they didn't even think twice how messed up that sounds.
final day of an event. Of course, subject to change depending on your numbers. However, if you didn't pay, you'd only be allowed to listen to the tournament, can't promote anything, and have to put a timestamp up so people can sync the video from Beyond the Summit to the audio from your stream. How thoughtful. When was the last time you remember paying to react to a Nintendo Direct? Do you think that would significantly impact the hype if you had to make a down payment on a watch party? Now that doesn't sound very grassroots and anti-corporation fuck Nintendo, does it? But what about after the event, so you're not messing with their live stream? When you want to just make some fun, transformative content simply for the community to enjoy and look back on. Well, if it's according to Nintendo's policy, as long as it's creative and fair use, you can even monetize it using the standard approved methods such as Twitch, YouTube, etc.
Which makes sense, right? But apparently not according to these Smash tournament organizers. No, pay us or you're gonna get fucked.
However, Beyond the Summit must know something we don't, because even if your content that utilizes their footage is transformative and fair use, their website states that you're still, for some reason, not allowed to monetize it. That makes their policy around content and streaming actually more restrictive and worse than Nintendo. Here's a little food for thought. How are they going to charge you over $1,000 for a streaming license to host a watch party when they themselves don't have exclusivity or commercial rights to the game that they're broadcasting and can only do so because it's also transformative and therefore technically allowed by Nintendo? Now, I'm no CopyZilla, but that sounds a lot like a scam to me. And if you refuse to buy into their scam, they'd message you and claim that you're not permitted to react to their public Twitch stream and demand you take it down. Monetizing their intellectual property through third-party licensing is explicitly prohibited and has been for years. Is that really going to put a dent in their event sponsored by Papa John's, Crypto, and Red Bull? Surely they're making enough with the product placement, banner ads, Twitch ads, and ad reads to not have to charge $1,000 per person. Ultimately,
Yeah, which kind of doesn't really sound right to me because when it comes to sponsorship money, a lot of times it can be pretty fruitful based on not only viewership numbers, but the amount that's sold. I think this was recently discovered on... I was seeing like a lot of the Streamer University stuff pop up all across the Twitter timeline. Ludwig, for example, showed like his earnings back in June on how much he made through all of his platforms. On Twitch, he made only upwards of about I think more than $10,000. YouTube is more than 100,000, which kind of goes to show that having one-off offline content is more profitable than essentially streaming, because a lot of times with streaming, you have to rely on people giving you donations and just, watching your stream and, ads running and things like that. But for sponsorships, the sponsorship money that he essentially got was over $800,000. And this is across, all of his brand deals that he's had across the years. And this is for the month of June alone, where he essentially made $800,000. It's a pretty interesting insight, but you're telling me that these tournament organizers are not making enough money, are not making money from being sponsored by Papa John's, doing the crypto and Red Bull and all these other companies. They're not getting a very decent sized cut from those sponsorships. They still have to charge $1,000 just to view a fucking video online.
this content model is self-serving, allegedly outright illegal copyright infringement, and
Definitely illegal.
Anti-fair use. And judging from Dr. Allen's statement about an escalating legal issue over broadcasts, I'm assuming this might be somehow related. I even spoke to the major tournament organizer Bobak, who has worked with Beyond the Summit in the past, and he had no idea that this was taking place.
So apparently, one of the people that worked with Beyond the Summit, for example, did not know anything about this going on. Now, it's possible it could be a lie, but that also says something if somebody did not even know that a scam like this was taking place.
According to him, they never even did production for his tournaments, and he primarily just used their channel for streaming, with a contract to establish a revenue split. It also seems like Bobak has never charged anyone for these supposed licenses, and the only confirmation of this kind of activity occurring that I've personally received all points back to Beyond the Summit. Trust me, I looked into VGBC, and all they were really doing is having you fill out a form so they could use your Twitch analytics to probably negotiate a higher deal with sponsorships, and like basic cross-promotion stuff, linking to the stream, all of that, just nothing as egregious as a $1,000 license. When it comes to dealing with Nintendo, everyone's in the same boat and are at the mercy of their strict policies. However,
So it's right. Oh, there's actually a small section here.
chat to turn the creative when even and lack of intervention in Smash of their strict policies.
Okay, so there is actually a lot of important sections in this particular part. So I'm gonna play the rest of this video.
Dealing with Nintendo, everyone's in the same boat and are at the mercy of their strict policies. However, some have decided to take advantage of their lack of intervention in Smash specifically to pose as an authority on broadcasting and limit the already struggling community from engaging with their content by using steep licensing fees and denying monetization of transformative content. A rule that is not even present on Nintendo, YouTube, or Twitch's websites. Then, when Nintendo decided to get involved in how they handled broadcasting rights, the co-owner and creative director considered this bullying and planned months in advance in their company chat to turn the entire community against Panda and Nintendo so they could replicate the backlash from EVO 2013 in order to force Nintendo to back down. But they wouldn't say anything publicly.
So this was their reasoning. They wanted to essentially incite enough of noise to essentially get a company to back down and to allow them to basically pull an EVO 2013, which was the one time when Smash Melee was allowed to be shown as a
2013.
to allow Smash Bros. Melee to have a tournament at EVO. When you consider what they essentially did back then, I kind of now see Eden's point when she says Smash Melee sucks. I'm actually not joking here. I'm starting to see her point, especially in conjunction with this. Like a game that has, a lot of has some more bugs in it than most other Smash games. Why did this one get most of the attention?
To force Nintendo to back down. But they
I just don't get it.
Publicly, that is, until VGBC brought up Dr. Allen in relation to them being denied for their commercial license with Nintendo and accused him of souring their relationship with other tournament organizers. Even though VGBC blatantly ignored Nintendo's guidelines, never got Nintendo's approval or a finalized proposal, and launched their global circuit anyways after only providing 2 months in advance for their commercial license application to be approved.
Keep in mind, they applied for a license 2 months before they were supposed to go out. Getting licenses is supposed to be a multi-year process, and they essentially wanted it quick, just like that. Fucking idiots. You realize when Panda was essentially organizing for a license, they were only focusing on one specific region. Because they know how lengthy of a process it is. They're the only ones that understood the assignment. These are the companies that were essentially jealous of Panda Global, just wanted to essentially, have it immediately in their belt, just like that. They just wanted it immediately, like entitled children.
Keep in mind, this is very important.
I know I derailed the stream, sorry, but I just noticed how hard Nintendo's been going across all their IP since this disaster. It makes sense. But I think it also makes sense that you bring up this particular example, and I think it's worthy to highlight it because when it comes to Nintendo's aggressive stance on lawsuits, I think it's really important to highlight why this particular issue is happening and why this is brought up as a point.
It took Panda Global 3 years to get a license for just a North American circuit. And
3 years! And as we see over here, they wanted 35 stops in 14 countries. You are talking about years and years and years of deliberations to getting licenses for all these countries. This is not something that is just going to happen instantly, just like that. Christ on a bike.
VGBC was attempting to go international with 38 events in 2 months. It's also worth noting that 6 days
Impossible.
before the Nintendo rep reached out to them, after months of no communication, they posted a Google Doc to their company account that brought attention to months of no communication.
Wait, November 23rd, they had their most recent call with Nintendo, and then These people are so malicious, man. And you wouldn't believe that they're protecting somebody who committed statutory rape.
A Google Doc to their company account that brought attention to my coverage of their complicit response to Nairo and his ban in the community. My coverage highlighted the lack of a functioning code of conduct and security.
Literally no security. If you look over there, not a single guard or anyone posted up.
And to this day, no one else has provided an actual explanation why Nintendo would cite health and safety violations and have just hand-waved it as corporate speak. Quick Smash update just to keep you guys in the loop.
As corporate speak. As essentially corporate speak. And essentially both Charlie and Ludwig have essentially not made any mention towards Technicals' actions, where he was able to get into the event because there was no security guarding the event. Not only that, the reason this was essentially happening was because the very tournament organizers had unbanned a Smash player by the name of Nairo after he had essentially admitted to, while he was 20 years old, to have committed statutory rape twice with a 15-year-old player by the name of Captain Zack, who was also a dude. Now, the only defenses that Nairo essentially had for those two instances was that in the first night, the 15-year-old essentially raped him in his sleep. Even though he was warned, even though the 15-year-old player in question was warned by other players to not go into Nairo's room. So there's something strange going on. Now, on the second day, this was in CEO Dreamland. The second day, this was in the same event. Nairo then says was that he was blackmailed into doing it. Now, what this essentially is supposed to sound like is that supposedly Zack would go up to Nairo and say, dude, if you do not let me suck your dick or jerk you off, I will then tell everyone about the first night and how you took advantage of me. And I will ruin your career forever. Now, usually in that situation, you would, if you know you weren't in the wrong, when he essentially decided to come on to you, at that point, you would just say, okay, fine. See what happens. I'll take the hit, but I'll make sure people know what you really did. If you say anything else but no, basically your defense goes away. The Smash community, unironic, and that is why there's a lot of criticism going on towards the Smash community, because after a legal agreement was filed with... Hey, Smugsuck, welcome to the stream. Ooh, wings activate. Ooh, let's go. Ooh, let's go. Right. Airplane wings, why don't you come on out? Wait, no, that's not the right button. There you go. Let's get my wings into view. Yeah, you see that? Now I'm gonna be floating in the air. How's it going, Smugsuck? Welcome to the stream. We were just going over like the Pal World loss, the update to a Pokemon lawsuit where they had their patent essentially rejected. But it seems there's somewhat of a bit of a relationship with why Nintendo seems to be going, why do they have gay RGB lights? These are not RGB lights, Mild. Does this look like gay to you? Does this look gay to you? Guys, I think Mild may be a closeted gay man. Just saying. He could be a closeted gay man. You never know. But essentially, these gay robots. Fuck you. Hold on. Fuck. Say that again, bitch. Say that again. Say that again. I fucking dare you. Oh, what the shit? I didn't even realize it could do that. I didn't realize it could essentially do that. I can't remember. Hey! 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 Not a robot twink! Stop it! I'm not a robot twink! Sorry. I got fucking derailed. Okay, let's continue.
With the previous story, Alpharad has went back.
Oh yeah, Alpharad. Oh, so I'm just pausing this on this part right here. So when the Smash community banded together after a legal agreement was filed, during a legal case between Captain Zack and Nairo, essentially the legal agreement doesn't indicate whether he was innocent or guilty. But apparently, people are supposed to take him being innocent at his word because he apparently put out a 30-page Google document which was supposed to prove his innocence. And as of right now, that document has never been released to the public. And yet everyone else had decided to run with, oh, it's actually real because these three big content creators like Alpharad has seen it. And basically, I cannot say anything about it because I had to sign an NDA. So, I know Jaden Animations is now a VTuber. Again, if she finds out that his BFF or boyfriend, Alpharad, has essentially abetted in protecting a statutory rapist, ooh. Imagine the drama llama. But anyways, we're not here to go in depth about that or moral grandstand about that. I'm just mainly highlighting, the legal jargon that's essentially going on with Nintendo here.
Beyond the Summit and VG.
And why the Smash community essentially made it worse for everyone else.
VGBC were successful in shifting public opinion against Panda Global and Nintendo. VGBC even lied about the deals Panda was making and accused Dr. Allen of trying to get the broadcasting rights for free, which would conveniently corroborate Beyond the Summit's complaints about their negotiations. Regardless of the pitch deck showing this to be blatantly false, the popular opinion was already anti-Allen and anti-Panda.
This is the CEO of Panda, Allen, twirling his evil little mustache and his greed getting the best of him. He says, if you don't join us, we're going to get Big Daddy Nintendo, whom we're sucking the ass of, to shut you down. And that's exactly what's happened to the Smash World Tour.
So the collective boycott and targeted...
And this is exactly why, for people like Moist Critical and Ludwig, when they do news content, I can't exactly take them seriously. Especially when they don't report on essentially everything.
Event ran by Ludwig, where he ran it on the same day as the finals for the Panda Cup, inevitably caused the cancellation of the $100,000 Nintendo-partnered Panda Cup, and
which is a really big tragedy. This Panda Global event never ended up happening because of all the other because of all of the companies that were essentially involved in screwing them over. And that's really sad to see.
The firing of almost all their employees and sponsored players due to a lack of funds.
So the reason why we had to cancel it was because Ludwig decided to run his Scuffed World Tour on the same Sunday as our venue. That's really the final nail in the coffin that lost over 150 jobs. To raise money for the people who, outside of Nintendo, have done the most damage to the Smash community ever. Ludwig had probably no idea that he was doing that, but what world would a player...
See, I know that Alan is trying to be nice here and say that Ludwig probably had no idea. There is a chance he might not have known. But him hosting the same day as the Panda Cup finale, I think it's 100% obvious that he knew. Because you have to understand, the Smash community in of itself has a lot of very, very petty people. So it's not a big surprise that they 100% knew and were only doing this to screw with Panda Global, who are probably the best company out of the entire Smash community, at least in my view.
Choose to join a Panda Cup finale instead of a Ludwig event.
Right.
On the same day.
Yeah.
But at least Beyond the Summit and VGBC would fill the void created by this call-out, right? Well, in February of 2023, LD announced that Beyond the Summit would be letting all their employees go because of lack of finances. You can even go to their website, and on the first page, it shows a notice of dissolution of the company.
These other companies essentially ended up dying. That was the ironic bit. This is really the scenario where essentially nobody wins. Nobody wins here. Not Beyond the Summit, not VGBC. Nobody.
Well, what about VGBC? They're still around, right? Well, technically yes, but at a much smaller capacity. You see, Gimmer lost his $250,000 finale, 2 other major events, and is currently only focused on streams and running their local series. So essentially, everyone lost on a gamble, Nintendo intervened with tournaments and broadcasting anyways, and now there is less money, infrastructure, and no real guarantee that Nintendo will ever fund events at the same capacity that Panda had previously offered.
Because that $2 million made from the sponsors, we had to give it all back. You know, that was we didn't earn that. That was inked. The deals were signed.
They had a sponsorship lined up with Panda Express, for God's sake.
So good. Panda Express, Panda Global. Oh, such good branding.
The organization Luminosity has more than done their part to help fill the hole.
This aged poorly. Because right now because in another stream I covered, it was about MCNs. Omnia Media, which essentially had Luminosity Gaming, they had to sell it off. And essentially that one ended up dying too.
Left by Panda Global was so much more than just losing an organization. It directly affected the relationship with Nintendo and many people's immediate income. The people charging over $1,000 to host a watch party and destroying companies on a whim are unsurprisingly the real culprits who are fucking over the Smash community. For once, I can guarantee you it wasn't Nintendo. They were helping Panda Global secure hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsors. Now who do we think that money was going to?
A lot of the tournaments we worked with brought a lot of money. And then I have to watch people say that I strong-armed tournaments or I threatened them.
It seems like he wanted to strong-arm himself to being the only official tournament, and all the other ones he was trying to scare and intimidate and threaten with shutdown.
Why would I threaten people to take my money? Did you get paid well?
Any Panda event I worked was one of the most well-paying gigs I ever had in Smash, my time in Smash.
Multiple TOs told me they were upset at how much I paid you.
Me specifically?
No, I mean, they also wanted to blacklist you, but I fought back.
Damn! Whoa!
For some, it's always been a dream to get support from Nintendo and make Smash as an esport a more viable and sustainable community. So how can organizers then, with a straight face, convince anyone that that's their goal when their plan is to tell Nintendo to go fuck themselves because one organizer ignored their guidelines and another wants completely unsupervised control of their broadcasting rights? That's because this wasn't a business or a community decision. This was VGBC's last-ditch effort after being denied to create enough hate for Nintendo that it would force them to approve their license. You can see it in their statements. They're still desperate to work with Nintendo, and Beyond the Summit, for obvious reasons, was more than happy to co-sign, because it could possibly result in another golden age of no Nintendo intervention, meaning that they could secure all the Papa John's, crypto, and Red Bull sponsors they wanted without all that pesky copyright infringement red tape getting in their way. However, they both severely overestimated the influence of Dr. Allen on Nintendo, and instead of reflecting on how their own negotiations went south, decided to incorporate a personal beef with Panda Global, which would almost certainly ensure that everyone involved would be blacklisted from ever working with Nintendo again.
And it is pretty sad. it is pretty sad because in a way, I do think this is the most official explanation I could possibly think of as to why Nintendo has been a lot more strict when it comes to their licenses, because I think in a way, because their influence on their influence towards their own fans, they essentially view them in a negative light because of what one group essentially did. So at that point, they just said, enough's enough. We're basically going for everybody. We do not care if you're a fan. We are coming for you all and make sure that you all suffer because of what you put us through. So like a eat versus so like a kill or be killed kind of corporate thing that is essentially going on here. And in a way, that's essentially being reflected, and that's essentially affecting a lot of other people that have no involvement in this. This is really why nobody really wins here. But it's also like a really good explanation as to why it seems they're trying to do, like for example, with the aggressive lawsuit that's happening with Pal World, and the amount of patent stuff that essentially got rejected from the Japan IPO office, why essentially this is happening. There is a conclusion, but that is kind of just all I wanted to say about it. But that's kind of the long and short of it. If you guys want to check out Technicals, make sure you go check out his channel. It's right here. He does put out some pretty interesting content in regards to the esports scene and also other communities such as Paper Mario. Some really interesting stuff. He also has another channel called I'm Glad I Went to PC Gaming. Hey Zan, welcome to the stream. I think this is also part and parcel as to why now more and more people are essentially going towards PC gaming. And even then, PC gaming is going through its own war with corporate greed, thanks to AI data centers essentially hogging all of the important hardware that a lot of PC gamers especially needs. So anyways, VTuber news actually. I don't know if anybody remembers Luminara. Long story short, Luminara was hosted by this guy who used to be Zentrea's editor. And he started a VTuber company called Luminara, and his whole pitch was that creators would get 100% of earnings while the company gets none. And there was essentially no catch to it. People like myself, including Kendra, essentially picked up on this and thought, there is no catch. What exactly is going on here? Long story short, it ended up being a scam. And the guy who created this particular event, this organization, was caught for essentially sleeping with other talents and for being very extremely predatory. And I think there was even like a allegation of pedophilia involving him. I could be mistaken. I don't remember much about that. But one of the funniest things about it was that apparently Evan spoke to the guy because and essentially said, "No, guys, it's not a scam. It's not a scam." And look what happened. So essentially now Luminar has made an announcement that they've been acquired by a crypto company called Solaris. And moving forward, the team will consist of DD Mankiller, Rena B. Nana, Kyrie Owo, and Claxton. Hey, Hashtag Champion, welcome to the stream. We're just going over some new stuff. Kaminara/Real Kamana has been permanently removed from Luminara and no longer holds any affiliation with the organization. We recognize that this is a significant transition, and further details will be shared while we complete the changeover, as we are committed to full transparency throughout this process. We look forward to earning your trust and to make a meaningful, positive impact on the VTubing community. And essentially, according to the comments, no one's exactly buying this, and they're like, Yeah, good luck with that one, Chief. So, pretty simple explanation, not much to say there. It is what it is. Some of the news to note, the Nikkei summer event recently happened, and it seems there's also a survey that's going on about a new ASMR featuring Siren's voice Little Mermaid, otherwise known as Siren, who in my view is a pretty interesting character. I played the Japanese version, but I'm not really like a big fan of the English voice dub, but I can appreciate it when it does some things right. Now, in this particular Nikkei survey that's put out by this guy, Monkus, he essentially was giving his survey response back, and this one's kind of not okay to me. He says, Siren's English voice actress needs to be fired into the sun. To be honest, I wouldn't put the blame on Siren's voice actor. From what I understand, she's a pretty decent voice actor, and she's proven that time and time again. I don't know if she's part of the SAG-AFTRA kind of stuff, but I just think it's kind of not really her fault. It's more so the fault of the English voice director's influence. Because I feel like that should be more reflected on the direction that the English voice directors are essentially doing. Hey, Zach, welcome to the stream. We're just doing some news stuff today. And essentially, people saw that as essentially him giving a death threat. I don't see exactly how this is exactly a death threat. There may be something in these particular replies, but just saying needs to be fired into the sun, I don't think that's a death threat. It's just basically threatening them to lose their job, which that's really up to Shift Up. But I think it's also why Shift Up a lot of times doesn't listen to these people. So stupid. In VTuber news, the AI art war essentially continues because more people are essentially complaining about Leaflet. For those who don't know, Leaflet essentially released a new tool that is using AI assets, but for the most part, it's not completely made with Gen AI or anything of that sort. But a lot of other creators out there are essentially putting out their opinions. There's Scoochen over here giving a rational take on AI art and VTubing. And to be honest, I kind of agree with her on this, and I'll show you why. So let's have a listen.
Like, I'll be honest, I personally wouldn't use this, but do you think...
Oh, sorry, let me just move out of the way for lovely lady over here. Sorry. There we go. All right. Let's go.
That when personally wouldn't use this. Like, I'll be honest, I personally wouldn't use this, but do you think it's fair that when you're trying to start out as a streamer, you have to pay over $10,000 just to have a chance at having a model? Or sure, you can buy it for you can buy a pre-made one, but that's a pre-made one. Everyone and their mother using it. You wanna have a chance to be unique. You don't want to be fucking, I don't know, Suika Avatar 9999, right? You want to be your own person. But the thing is that just the art, mind you, from a mid artist, not like a good one, is going to be at least 1,000, if not 2,000.
So to put this into perspective, when I made this particular art model, I paid over at least, I'm trying to remember the amount that I had to pay. I remember. I had to pay about 1,800 Australian dollars to get this particular model. 1,800 Australian dollars. Because I had to pay about $900 US for the art and about $1,300 US to get essentially the rigging done. So technically it's about 1,800 US dollars, which in okay, so I fucked up there. It's not 1,800 Australian dollars. It's 1,800 US dollars, which in realistic value, I had to pay almost 2,500 to 3,000 Australian dollars because you have to account for conversion rates here. I had to pay so much just to get something unique like this. And that's not even addressing that you need a computer that can handle all of the software just to stream. True. Thankfully, I had a computer that can essentially do the job just like this. But even then, that's a big... That's essentially a tall order. Now, technically, there's probably a budget way that you can do this. I'll have to see that if it... I'm sure there's a budget way to do this. Most streamers have to essentially build 2 PCs just to do the job. But I guarantee you there's probably a budget way you can essentially do this. I guarantee you there is a way. And I will find it. I will find it. But you have to account for so much money just to be ordered to have a solid chance at doing something like this. And it's insane. It's insane that it's not affordable. So an option like Leaflet's asset thing existing is pretty good because what happens when someone doesn't have any money and is essentially doing streaming? They have an option right here. Or if they don't like that, they can just go with a pre-made model and just evolve from there. Like for example, when Neurosama essentially started out, they were using one of the base assets that was provided in VTube Studio. And that was a free model in of itself. And then eventually when they had the funds enough to make their own model, they went with something that still feels very familiar to people, but is still unique enough to be their own. And it's insane that we are even in this position to begin with, because unfortunately, VTubing in of itself is a very expensive endeavor. It's a very expensive endeavor. Yes, let's continue.
And then you have to get that rigged. A good rigger who is not going to give you like a HoloLive rhombus is going to be at least 2,000 as well. At least.
Which is true because I had to pay about 1,300 US dollars just to essentially get some very good rigging, like this, for example. I wanted something that was very similar to Kevin X's rigging style, because Kevin X is actually one of my favorite live 2D riggers, and essentially I can't afford that. So I had to find somebody that could essentially do similar, and I assume it's going to be easy, but as you can see, it is somewhat hard to find someone that can essentially do what he does, which is why Kevin X's style is very unique and is as good as it is. You know what's ironic? Many of these angry artists are likely left-leaning. What Leaflet did was create something for everyone. Essentially, everyone has a chance to make something similar to us, and this is a viable option for them. It's obviously not going to be as good, but it is still a very good starting point. That's why I've been, behind the scenes, I've been supportive of something like this. I think it really works for small-time people that essentially want to have a start in doing VTubing. I need to learn how to rig my rig. Guys, can we cancel Miles? He said the R slur. He said the R slur. Everyone cancel him.
Listen, Philian is an amazing streamer, but look at her. Even she got trouble. She wanted to get her Nandroid, and she couldn't. Because...
Yeah, essentially because she was using a model that she essentially ripped. She admitted she ripped a model from VRChat, and she used it as her avatar for a very, very long time. Now, something recent I noticed happened is that the guy who made the Rindo model that Fillion's model was based off of, a lot of the public Rindo models are now just gone because they filed a DMCA with Twitch to essentially get all of the public Rindo avatars taken down. So as of right now, realistically, no public avatar of Rindo exists. There's possibly some that still exist out there, but as of right now, they're basically putting on DMCA notices where people can't have public Rindo avatars anymore. Just to use the free model until you try to market it. Yeah, pretty much. And I know when that essentially happened, everyone was like, Fillion, this is your fault! I mean, sure, you could probably say that as a joke. This is why I think Fillion's stupid. Fillion, I love you, but you're stupid. You are stupid. Also, the thing that she's doing with the ARG, where like she recently put out like a ad on like the Shibuya billboard or something, the Titantron billboard or something like that. I think most people are already wondering, like, yeah, who is this for? Ooh. Balderzak, thank you so much for gifting a sub to Smugsuck. Smugsuck, you are now officially a fellow anomaly. You have just received a subscription. I have to find a name for a subscription. I will give an official subscription name. I will do that. But anyways, people were like wondering who is this for, and even myself, I was wondering, who is this for? At this point, Fillion, everyone's just too stupid to figure out your ARG, Fillion. Just come back. Just come back. Keep it simple. Or if you're gonna do an ARG, keep it simple because a lot of people are gonna be too stupid to figure it out. Unfortunately, you've been conscripted. Fillion is losing so much momentum. They really are, and it's sad. I understand that Fillion's trying to do something, incredibly out there. I understand that. But there has to be a line drawn in the sand here. Because sometimes maybe the biggest thing that you want to do isn't what's right for you. And that's a lesson I've had to learn the hard way. It does suck, but it is what it is. And I am thankful that I essentially had to learn that lesson myself before, other people could suffer for it. So anyways, let's continue.
The artist who made that pre-made avatar didn't agree. So it's not good for her either. Why do you think she probably has to do this whole rebranding or whatever? If she's coming back, it's going to be probably with a brand new avatar that can be finally her own.
This is very true. Scoo's definitely on the money here. She could also be dealing with a lazy artist. That's also very true. You have to consider, I think the best example of this was when Kershaw was waiting years before she could essentially have to, have someone that could essentially work on a model for them. For me, I waited years to essentially get this model together, but that was only because I had to essentially scrounge the money together. It was not easy. And it's thanks to Cha-Cha, she's finally now working with someone new that is essentially going to, basically create new live 2D art for Kershaw and someone that will essentially rig the new model for Kershaw. And who do we have to and in honesty, I do have to thank Cha-Cha for that. She is a fucking champion for that.
Angy still.
Actually, speaking of which, I remember the last time I talked about this, the model stuff, I was talking with Dark Enjoyer at Oshi Uplink. And when I was talking about how I essentially put my model together and paid this much for it, he even told me I got scammed. And at the time, I was like, I probably understand that. It was just the only option that I had at the time. So I decided to go with that. And even he said that even he made a gesture where he can essentially, I talk to him, and basically he can probably speak to some other people to say, hey, I know these particular people, maybe they can help you get what you're after and give you something higher quality for like a low price. And I was like, yeah, that actually sounds really good. I'll definitely be open to that at some point in the future. After I get my use out of this particular model, if I'm ready to move on to the next chapter, I essentially now consider, other options out there. There's a good chance I'll potentially do that. After I've essentially built up enough experience, I will essentially do that. Speaking of Cha-Cha, there is this video that Cha-Cha put out related to the leaflet mess. The thing is, her video has essentially become like a very hot topic. And the thing is, I understand what exactly Cha-Cha herself is going for. So we're going to look over this particular video together. This is something I found in this particular video right here. So I want to react to the long 15-minute video and essentially get her perspective on the current mess that's going on. So let's have a look.
I wanted to talk to you guys about insider ball knowledge.
Insider ball knowledge? Funny thing is, I have a lot of that, Cha-Cha. Why don't we talk? You and me?
And algorithms. I think it's really important to talk about. At least for me. Guys, it's tea time. It's tea time. I was debating about whether or not I should talk about this at all. It might be a little bit...
I just realized, if anybody points out with what I just said that I have a mommy fetish, shut up, I don't.
was debating about whether or not I should talk about this at all. It might be a little bit controversial, but I don't care. I think I'm gonna say something about it. Back in the day, about a year ago,
I see you in Kip Chat, Welder. Shut up. No, I don't.
Back in the day, about a year ago, I was doing a lot of multi-streaming on TikTok, okay? It was really easy for me to go into just chatting segments where I'd hold up a popsicle and look like I'm like swimming in the water, and I'd do my just chatting segments and I'd get 1,000 people, 1,200 people, 1,400 people, 1,600 people. And I'd be just doing just chatting segments, talking to people. Several other VTubers, also utilize TikTok and they'll do just chatting segments and stuff like that. But I noticed that when we were doing our Assassin's Creed Black Flag stream, that I was getting pinged for being unoriginal content. It didn't make sense to me. I tried doing a just chatting stream, no game. I changed my model. I thought, is it my model? Like, is it too sexual? Like, what is it? So I changed my model. Again, every 5 minutes, the TikTok algorithm would come over and say, this is unoriginal content. We are suppressing your stream.
Is she even old enough to be a mommy to you? It's not a mommy if she's your pet. Okay, for some reason I read peer as pet. I don't know why. But anyways, how old is Cha-Cha anyway? Because my actor is 27. How old is Cha-Cha again? I think she might be older. I could be mistaken.
And so I played around with it. I experimented, and we turned off the stream, turned it back on, turned the stream off, turned it back on. And every 5 minutes, their algorithm would basically come in to moderate the stream to see whether or not they should push it to more viewership. Because I would be hitting 100 viewers, and then the TikTok system would be like, stop right there, we're not feeding you anybody else, because this is unoriginal content. And I was like, why? That doesn't make any sense. I think it thinks that I'm AI. Why do I think that? Why would that be a factor? Recently, for a lot of React VTubers, all of our algorithms have been crap lately. But it's like, why? Why is it that TikTok believes that we are AI? It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And so I was scrolling. Sens is another VTuber, and he's been on TikTok forever. And he got nerfed. But I noticed that recently he tried a flesh tubing just chatting stream. And then bam, he was able to get 200, 300 CCV on TikTok. CCV being like the people that were coming to.
Okay, so Miles said one of the most important things from a VTuber is to have a good, unique model to start. A free model can only go so far. There's truth in that, but I think there's also another side to not just having a good, unique model for yourself. The other thing, in my view, is personality. Like, for example, you guys know my personality, right? As, like, you know, this dark, angy, android cyborg VTuber that's essentially going around fighting crime like Batman. And in a cyberpunk universe, that's me. And I'm essentially doing things that correlate to that aesthetic, which is like, you know, no, you're a fucking... No, I am look, my actor's a fucking dork, but the real Zelius is serious. I don't know what you're talking about, Miles. But anyways, there has to be like a personality along with having that unique VTuber model that helps accentuate that design. If you have like a really good unique design, but the personality is shit, you're probably not going to get much out of it, for example. So that's why it's kind of a mixture between having really good content that showcases yourself. You need to have people get engaged with your particular personality, and you need to have like a really cool design, for example, like what I have right here, that people will want to draw. So when I made this particular design, at first when I did my original design, there was actually a lot more mecha elements to it. But the first problem I encountered was that there was not a lot of artists that wanted to draw mecha. So I had to pivot a little bit. I had to make my character relatively easier to draw, where it's not too difficult for anybody that doesn't like mecha to basically look at this and go, oh yeah, I can draw this. I essentially wanted to make it a little bit easier for people to draw and not have to, you know, go through the trouble of drawing mecha-esque elements. Essentially, I'm keeping the elements where it feels like it's mecha, but I also wanted to make it easier to draw for people. Obviously, you need a good personality, but what I mean is you need a good base. VTubing is both an aesthetic and a personal medium. That's very true. But that's why I say also it's like a saga of different elements to come together in order to be like a quote-unquote successful VTuber. Which is why I've been starting to, you know, do a lot more streams lately, and I essentially want to evolve my, you know, experience. And then eventually the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting out like solo content on YouTube, which is essentially going to have, you know, some edited elements to start out with, and just sort of keeping it simple. And then there's Polka from Hollow that makes fan art describe because of the hairpins. I've seen it, and to be honest, I can understand why. I feel bad for the amount of artists that have to suffer just drawing that. Much respect to those that can get through it.
Stream to see a stream. And it's like, oh my gosh, TikTok really is.
Sorry, I don't mean to derail.
Suppressing VTubing specifically. Again, why? I wanted to talk about what is happening in the VTuber space at the minute. I'm not trying to gatekeep when I say this, but let's stop and watch the video for a little bit. So this is Leaflet. She's another VTuber, and she is working on a AI-made VTuber model, and she's also working on an RPG game using an AI system.
Hey guys, Leaf here. I have an update. I was working on the project for a little bit today. The big things are, there are a couple new features I added. One of them was a little bit of smoothing, animation smoothing, so it pops a little bit now. It has a little intentional like jump that makes the animation switches feel a little bit more intentional, and I think it helps a little bit. And I also added a little bit of voice detection. I changed like how it detects so that it doesn't just cut out right away like when you're speaking, because when people speak, they usually talk in bursts, at least I do. Some people also do that. It doesn't just automatically cut off if you wait like a couple like milliseconds between your next word. And then some other things I did was a little bit of smoothing for the emotions, so there's a little bit of changes there when going between emotions and stuff like that. To be honest, I find this particular technology fascinating in the sense that
like I talked about before on the technology stream that I did, where I essentially said AI can essentially have its good uses. There's also uses where AI can essentially have bad uses too. This is an example for where it's essentially being utilized to make VTubing more accessible to everybody. It is there as an option. And essentially, they can essentially use that to evolve later on to having something more unique to themselves. It can be used as like, a really good stepping stone.
The thing I added was I added randomization, so now you can have multiple lead-in emotes and multiple outro emotes, so that you can run a random emote system where, say you wanted to, here in this case, I'll transmute my gun. Switching back to the original state and switching into the gun state can have a random animation. So here's like an outro. She drops the gun. So drops the gun and then transmute another one. And it's random, so it could play the same one multiple times, but here's another one. See, it plays like a completely different one.
No wonder TikTok believes that 3D avatars and 2D avatars used in 2D are AI, because this is becoming more and more common. The ability that AI...
I will also say, even human models have to go through imperfections as well.
And
for example,
the ability...
You notice how her hand essentially went into her... Well, you don't need me to point this out, what it is. It goes into it, and then it just goes out, and it still bounces. These slight imperfections like this, because AI is also capable of showing certain imperfections too. For example, like hands not looking proper and things like that. Her chachas. God damn it, Fowls, I hate you. Why'd you have to say that? Oh no, why'd you have to say that? Ugh. No, I do not want the stream to go talking about her chachas like that. Absolutely not. But essentially, it has these sort of imperfections, like with, AI, for example, can't draw hands properly. So I think their new AI algorithm that, TikTok and YouTube uses is essentially trying to detect certain things that is usually known in like the AI slop category. And for some reason, I think what happens is that, JCU Dev, thank you so much for the subscription to my YouTube. Thank you so much. Do be on the lookout for new content coming out. But essentially, I think it's trying to see if other videos out there have this similar, like, imperfections that are going on. Because as of right now, the AI is not perfect. It shouldn't be, right? Leaflet's reaction to this clip was gold. I've seen it. I've seen this, and I love it. So I think because it detects those imperfections that are also seen in VTubing models, that can happen, with like 3D models or 2D and things like that, because of the way it moves, it essentially thinks, okay, I think this is slop. I think this is going to be AI slop. Let's put it in the AI slop category and restrict it. Now, the thing is, even if it's restricted, for example, oh, hey, RokaN64, welcome to the stream. We're just reacting to some stuff. Now, the thing is, the way I understand it, even if the AI slop stuff is restricted, it will still find a way to essentially being shown to other people on sites like YouTube and TikTok. Because, like, for example, I keep seeing on my mom and dad's phones, they're essentially seeing a lot of AI slop content on their shorts category. They always think something is real, and I and my sibling had to essentially point out to them, this is AI. We had to point out when exactly something is AI, because we had to essentially watch it ourselves. Because they're believing that, this could be real, and we essentially have to go like, hold on, this is AI. So we had to essentially start, guiding them towards how they can easily detect if something is AI based on the way the video looks and the way it's constructed, the movements of the people on the screen and things like that. I hate to do this to you, but you're the three people. Wait, hold on. What the fuck did you say, Mild? I hate to do this to you, but you're the person I've noticed that does what I call the tism lip smack. Why did you have to point this out? No, oh no. No. Nope. Stop it! Stop it! I promise I don't do this often. Fuck. No. Fuck. No. I promise I'm not doing this on purpose. No. Carrying on.
Ability that AI has to do this is incredible. And I don't say that to support AI, but it is incredible the ability it has to transform these 2D characters into something more animated and moving. But this is why TikTok is saying, oh, 2D VTubers are AI, because this is more and more accessible. This is not a bash on anyone, okay? This is not what I'm trying to say. I am not trying.
I know a lot, when people saw like the shorter version of this on Twitter, for example, some people assumed that Cha-Cha was bashing on Leaflet here and is sort of making a weird leap in logic. I mean, in all honesty, there is some leaps of logic here and there in some ways. But I also kind of see where she's coming from. I kind of see where she's coming from, where I think it's, which I kind of explained that I think what's happening is that AI is sort of mistaking the imperfections that can happen with VTubing with AI slop content that has similar imperfections. So I think because of that, it's going to lump those two together, and it's like another hurdle to essentially fight, because you have to show VTubing is very different. Yet they have to essentially teach the AI algorithm that VTubing as an aesthetic is very different to the aesthetic that is shown in a lot of AI slop content. Cha-Cha is trying too hard to play the content creator tightrope of public perception. This is very true. I understand why having this sort of battle between public perception is hard. I think there's a lot more authenticity to there, personally, if you're just not afraid to be yourself.
Trying to bash AI. I'm not trying to bash Leaflet. I'm not trying to say any of that. I like supporting people. But I wanted to explain what's going on in the space for people that I suppose would be like wondering, why am I not taking off? Why is it that I am live streaming on TikTok or YouTube Shorts and I'm not getting audience? Is it because I suck? Or like, why am I not growing? It's because TikTok and YouTube at the moment, the current culture is AI bad. Because what they want to prevent is slop content becoming super regular. But like, even then on TikTok, slop content is becoming more and more regular for AI.
I once... See, I don't know if I completely agree. Let me explain why. When it comes to YouTube and TikTok, the entire audience is not exactly saying AI bad. If you're gonna go to places, like for example, places like Blue Sky, for example, there's gonna be like 99 to 100% of people are gonna tell you AI bad, even though that particular platform has AI as well. When it comes to the detection, the algorithm essentially pushing out more slop, I think it's more so that it's pushing out people towards people that essentially see it and don't think that it's AI. That's where I think more of that is being pushed onto, personally speaking. YouTube in itself doesn't care about combating AI slop a lot of the time. Because, for example, my parents, for example, still see AI slop on their timelines. And sometimes they always think it's real. When I essentially had to point out to them, hold on, this is AI. And we kind of have to start essentially teaching them when to detect if something is AI and when something is not. And also, there is tools out there that can essentially tell you if something was generated with AI. Photo detection tools and video detection tools and things like that. And guess what? Those are also being utilized with AI. No matter if you like it or not, AI is being tested and experimented with on like a very, very large scale. By corporations, by individuals, to open source developers, you name it. YouTube doesn't care so much. I try not to watch too much AI, but I still stumble across it just by accident. On Twitter, for example, I have liked some, well, I don't know if it's unfortunately. There's some art out there that was essentially done with stable diffusion and novel AI and things like that. And usually the profile tells you if something is generated through AI. I'm not going to lie. Some AI art I do find appealing. But I'm also going to be more supportive towards people that actually draw and actually stick to, basically drawing. And are essentially not going around just basically going, ooh, AI bad and things like that, like moral grandstanding about it. If they do, usually I just try not to pay attention, but then if they, if they attack me, for example, then it's like, okay, you're just part of the problem. But even if they don't, I can still notice when somebody's a part of the problem. It's the edges of things. That's usually how you can tell when something is AI. Easily.
AI content just, no matter what, it exists. Shorts are constantly being fed. Have you seen like the AI series compilation stuff where it's like, I was reborn and now I have a second chance at life? AI does make content creation more accessible, especially if you can't afford it. However, the current meta not only suppresses AI, but it's also suppressing VTubers in general. It's lumping 2D VTubers into the AI slop category. And that's why this is so topical right now. Because there are so many people who are trying to grow, and basically by having this content more available, having it so much more easily accessible basically takes everyone and throws them into a sinking ship unless you have a pre-existing platform. Unless you've already built and cultivated your audience where you're more recognizable. It's like the...
I can sort of see where she's going with this, and I don't entirely disagree, but I'm also not sure if I agree with her on this point either. Because there have been examples of small-time creators essentially getting pushed. And that's usually because they know somebody really big, for example, or something like that. I remember seeing a post as floating pixels with the lines of AI because AI draws things differently than humans do. But because it's pixels, you don't notice it, but your brain does. I think the explanation for it is that it basically is created from noise. I forget which post essentially explains this, but the way they describe it is that the AI essentially makes it from like a bunch of noise, and it basically generates from that noise a piece of artwork. And it's made, and essentially that noise is made from like a bunch of pixels, essentially being, generated and essentially drawn over a piece of canvas. And the result of the mishmashing of noise is essentially what creates that artwork. And that's how it's essentially done. So it's kind of interesting, but it's because of this particular method, it's why the detection of AI is actually a lot more easier. And also easier to understand. Hold on. First thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move back to the left. I don't think she reacts to any more videos, but my video screen is on my left anyways.
Rich stay rich. Does that make sense? I think this is really cool. Like, I won't lie. This is really cool. However, I still do believe that if you choose to go the AI route, artists who make a living doing art suffer because AI is so much more easily accessible. So for a lot of artists, because, you know, VTubing was started with the foundation of artists.
Mama will always...
That subscription noise is distracting.
Will not work with people who support AI. So, like, yeah, it's not a bash on whether, you know, you use it or not, but it is an explanation of why, you know, artists, you know, abhor AI. And it's one of those things where, you know, a lot of artists will probably be out of jobs. And
I think there's a good and evil in that particular statement. Because like what we saw with Scoo-chan, for example, there's artists out there that act extremely entitled. Unfortunately, and this is true. I can probably think of a few other artists that could probably have a similar opinion to what Scoo-chan would have, for example. I think there is a sort of blessing with artists complaining about AI, because I think in a way it teaches them how to be competitive. How do we essentially make our services better for people than what AI is giving them right now? Because right now the prospect of having something generated by AI, which is art, for either for free or for, you know, a very small price, which I personally I don't think it should be priced, but that's just me. But it also depends if it's like a human using AI to generate like a pose or something like that. There's many examples. They have to find out how to make themselves more appealing and accessible to the everyday person. Because if you're going to make your services very expensive, but the art that you show does not reflect why people should buy it for that price, what is it you're doing here then? Maybe at that point you either deserve to lose your job, or you start adapting to the current changing environment creatively. You find a way to essentially make yourself more accessible to people. Maybe start having a good look at yourself and see, what would you pay for this artwork? Because let's be honest, people are just not going to trust someone forking over like, you know, thousands of dollars in money to essentially get a piece of artwork. And when you sell that off, it could essentially be worthless, for example. There needs to be, you need to value it correctly, not just for yourself, but for people out there that are buying. Understand your audience and adapt based on that. That's my advice to anybody out there that's creating, you know, doing art or anything like that. Look towards the environment and see what it is that you should be pricing your works for. Because, sure, you want to make sure that you are able to make a living out of this, but you also want to make sure to understand your audience and make sure that the prices that you are offering is feasible and affordable to them. A good artist is not threatened by AI because they actually know their worth as an artist. Correct. When they understand how that environment works and adapt based off of that, that's usually people who know that they can essentially trust them with that. For me, that's when I know they're a good artist. Also, on the note of what Chacha is saying, algorithms are AI. They're using AI to detect AI to suppress it. But what does AI have to base itself off of for detecting AI? It's a pretty complex and open-ended question in my view, because there's like many factors you have to consider as to what AI is basing their data off of. What is it they're learning off of? Because I think for algorithms, I believe they're using some sort of deep learning, language learning model or something like that in order to power that algorithm. So what I think is essentially happening here is they have to base it off of data, and also what Content ID, for example, when that was a thing in the past, was taking down various videos and what was the data from that. So they're also taking data from various other times they've had to copyright other people or to take down other people for, like, you know, stealing content and things like that. It's probably basing it off of that data, if that makes sense.
And that's just the reality of it. And people are going to be bitter because of it. So the world of streaming in general changes immensely because of AI. And I do wonder where that will lead in streaming and VTubing, content creation, etc. long term. Because right now, the meta is, like I said, AI bad. But in 5-10 years, are people going to be saying the same thing? And why will they be saying differently? Or the same? It's very thought-provoking. And so this is just something that I've been thinking about lately, especially as I, jumped on to do a stream for like the...
I think it's interesting they asked the question, in 5-10 years, are people going to have the same opinion? My guess is no, in the sense that I think a majority of people are going to start getting tired, or well, as of right now, they're probably already starting to get tired of the whole argument. I think it's going to be to a point where people are going to start getting tired of having this argument again and again over AI art. And eventually that's going to become the norm, where people will just slowly start to accept that this is the new future. So now the question will become, how do they adapt based on this new future that's coming in? It's a scary thought, and I understand that. But we shouldn't be so quick to shut it out just because AI bad. We have to find out which ideas work with AI and which ideas don't. I think that should be the starting point.
First time in almost like a year on TikTok. I just think it's interesting that, like, so far over the past, I don't know how long it's been, I think it's the past couple of months, where YouTube and TikTok has cracked down on VTubing. Even if you are modestly dressed, it's been flagging creators that make content as AI, and it suppresses and it prevents VTubing from being more widely spread. And I think that that's probably one of my frustrations as a VTuber, because I got into content creation hoping to be more anonymous, and it's because I have kiddos and stuff like that. But eventually I would like to get to the point where I do more IRL content creation. But not everyone has that luxury. I do care enough about my anonymity that, I want to keep my kids safe, and it's a hard balance. That's why
I will say I will have to criticize Chacha a little bit about this, because she has technically shown her face on stream before, even though she wears a face mask. I know there's going to be that point where she will do more IRL streams. And at that point, do we call Chacha a VTuber anymore? You could probably call her a 2.5D VTuber or something, like what Kason does. But at that point, the question becomes, would she still be a VTuber when she starts doing IRL stuff? Even though we've already seen her experiment with that quite a little bit. So in that regard, I probably wouldn't just classify Chacha as just a VTuber. I'd probably say she's more of a content creator that does VTubing on the side. Personally speaking, anyone's free to disagree with me on this, but that's what I see.
I appreciate VTubing. I will say that I find it disappointing if VTubing overall was suppressed. AI is...
I will say, kind of similar to what happened with the Smash community, for example, there have been examples of other VTubers out there essentially making things worse for themselves. There have been small instances of that, and that's why it's frustrating for a lot of people such as myself, because in a ways, the amount of people that have essentially gotten into VTubing thanks to the big boom that happened in 2020, after, Project Melody came into the scene, and then the emergence of VShojo and all of these other companies that were essentially coming in. It also gave way to what is essentially a bunch of tourists. Tourists in the sense that they have no appreciation for the past of VTubing, where it's deep-rooted with, Japanese idol culture and anime. Because there are some VTubers there that essentially don't like anime, but respected well enough to where they're sort of doing their own thing with it. That, in my view, is fine. But then you have people that essentially hate anime and will make no qualms about disrespecting the VTubing art form and just want to change the rules for everybody because they can feel better about themselves. And that's kind of why there's been a little bit of a crackdown on it. Like recently, what happened with the knock feature, for example. In the past, when Evil Toaster essentially was a Twitch ambassador, what happened was he came up with the knock feature. And Iron Mouse essentially, criticized Twitch for essentially making that feature and also having it, automatically enabled, because what if somebody just wants to knock in during their stream or whatever, and then they just do a collab here and there, and there's some fears of like doxing and stuff like that. And there was a bit of a Hail Mary in regards to that, but then, essentially people would then start talking shit about Evil Toaster, and then he would lose his position as Twitch ambassador. And I don't know why, but I feel like because of that, that set Twitch on the grounds of basically going after a lot of different VTubers. In some ways, I understand it. Like similar with Nintendo, it's not exactly their fault this time around. But at the same time, they also did technically start it by implementing a feature that nobody essentially wanted except for Evil Toaster, I guess. So it's kind of taking into notion like the different incidents that have sort of been happening as to how we essentially got into this point, and it requires taking a deep, darker look into the VTubing scene in and of itself.
Going to be more prevalent and crazier and more impressive than ever. Like I said, this, when she starts transmuting her gun, it is so impressive. Things like this are only going to become more prevalent. It just makes me curious of how this will transform content and how it affects VTubers in the future and how it affects artists, because I do care about that. I care about VTubing culture and I care about artists and their livelihoods. That matters to me a lot. Editing and people editing, and that's another thing too. Editors I think are one of those people that are under-respected. I think content creators owe a lot to editors, and even on the editing side, there are so many AI programs and softwares out there that are trying to create clippable moments to put out there for content. And yeah, it does make it cheaper for people that are creating content to use, but it also puts editors out of jobs too. So I mean, it's one of those things too. Programs and everything else is becoming more advanced to make those jobs, formerly that were used in a more human capacity.
I think in a way, what I think is going to happen is that there's going to be some regulations involved when it comes to AI use within the creative space. There's going to be some regulation involved because there's already some companies out there that are going to start experimenting more with this. We've seen this with Illumination Entertainment. We've seen this with A24. We've seen this with a lot of other movie productions. The way I see it, they're similar with what happened with Autotune when they started using it more as a tool rather than a replacement for singers. I think what's going to happen is that it's going to be a thing where there will be accessible tools out there for people to use to help simplify some aspects of the creative process, especially when you're like stuck in the creative gut. Now that being said, and it's usually for like, you know, the more time-consuming or non-important like areas of production. For example, like if you have to scrub a VOD, for example, which, for example, there's now a VOD scrubber tool out there that uses AI to simplify, you know, VODs for you. The way I see it is that people will start seeing this more as like a tool that can essentially help you simplify the process, but you also have a free choice to not essentially use it. You're more than free to use that if that's not what you'd like to do. If you like the idea of, you know, spending time looking over VODs and just, you know, picking out which ones you like to do, for example, like in the editing process, you're more within your right to do so. If you like the idea of using AI to help with coming up with pose ideas or, you know, reference drawings or ideas or anything of that sort, you're more than free to do that. If that's not your thing, you're also free to do that. You don't have to use it. I think people are more afraid of the prospect where you are mandated to use a tool like this. And personally speaking, I don't think that's going to be the future. At least I personally don't think so. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it heading towards that direction. Because I know there's going to be like a bit of a more of a civil war in regards to that. And eventually I think what's going to happen is they'll probably come to a middle ground. But if something extreme happens, then maybe we'll get one of the extreme sides, and that's probably going to result in an everybody loses kind of situation. And I'm hoping it doesn't steer in that direction.
Out of business. And I mean, you know, times change. Things become more irrelevant and everything. And I do think that, you know, the art community, you know, deserves a lot of respect. I do think that this isn't something that's being talked about enough right now. How AI impacts the algorithm, like I said, on TikTok and YouTube, and what it's doing to VTubing overall. But yeah, no, this is so topical right now.
I will say, it's better to respect artists that do not attack and threaten you because you chose to use AI for yourself. And basically, they go out of their way to basically blacklist you from working with other artists and try to make your life a living hell. Those type of artists, we do not respect.
How AI affects VTubing overall in the algorithm. Because right now, it's killing VTubers. And so many people that are trying to break out of the box from 5 viewers to 30 viewers. The thing that AI does for VTubing, because currently the tracking, you know, it's choppy here and there, but it's only getting
sweetest little
better.
cutie pie.
It's only getting better. And so the truth is that you make this more commonly used, and so many people start getting into VTubing. But you make something like this so easily accessible, it's hard to differentiate this between, you know, 2D VTubing and stuff like that. And then you get thousands of people flooding an already niche space, and you get people complaining, well, why do I only have 5 to 10 viewers? And I do think that it takes a lot of...
Well, the thing is, that problem has already been happening even before AI was even a thing. Where, you know, there's a bunch of people essentially complaining out there, like, for example, on Twitch, that they're getting only 5 to 10 viewers, for example, and they're not getting any more. Like, what gives, man? I want to give my 3K viewers, like Iron Mouse and Pippa and all of my Oshis out there. What is it they have that I don't? And my answer to that would be something along the lines of this. If you're just doing streaming and you're not doing offline content stuff outside of VTubing, the question I would essentially ask you is, what is it that you were hoping to get out of streaming? Because if it's just a stream and that's it, you're not going to do anything else, you're not going to get far. That's just the reality of it. Now with this AI thing, sure, we can complain about, like, you know, the thousands of other people that now essentially get into VTubing and all this sort of stuff. And then other VTubers that, you know, didn't go through that road will essentially go, why am I only getting 5 to 10 viewers? Instead of complaining, realistically, people should be taking notice of the environment and see what they can essentially do to adapt to that environment and make it work for themselves. Because there's always going to be somebody out there that is going to like having a VTuber, for example, that streams without AI, for example, or doesn't use, like, you know, any moderation tools or some shit like that. There's always going to be someone like that out there. There are different audiences for different things. Just because one thing exists doesn't mean now, oh, the audience is now going to favor this more than that. Which, sure, that could be true. That could be true. But at the same time, fuck, I lost my train of thought. But essentially, hold on, I'm trying to get my train of thought back. All right. Sure, that could be potentially true, where, you know, people are going to prefer AI more than something like, you know, just purely drawn by humans. At the same time, there will be an audience that will also would like the best of both worlds. But also, people will, at the end of the day, prefer something that's made by humans, even if it's using AI to assist them. Because if AI essentially assisted them with one part of the process, but it's now a human that's essentially making everything else, are we really going to say that it's 100% generated by AI when in reality it was done majority-wise by a human? To answer your question, as long as Cha-Cha never takes off her face mask, she can always be considered a VTuber, because that is the most important part of VTubing. Your anonymity, and your face determines your anonymity. This is why K-San is not a VTuber anymore, but I will begrudgingly admit that Bao and Lily still are. But also Buff Pup isn't, because she disrespects the core aspect of VTubing. Interesting. Yeah, I can definitely see your point. I wouldn't say... I mean, Lily right now is technically trying to be a VTuber, even though people already know what she's like, because there's public records of her days as a fake scam streamer still out there. But I think it's also interesting that, what is it? People like Buff Pup essentially exist, because they're people that don't understand the past of YouTubing and the history of it, but they're essentially there to push their own stuff onto other people. I think there was that podcast clip that they put out where they were essentially shaming people for hiding their face or something like that. I forget what that clip was, but I remember just thinking, yikes.
Soul away from VTubing. But is it creative? Oh, it absolutely can be, and it's going to be only more and more creative. If you want to do this with 2D art, something like this, to animate it and rig it, that's an extra $1,000 to add to your VTuber model. And that's one singular animation. Just think about the way that that's impacting things like our cartoons and stuff too. It's interesting. People, you know, talk about, well, what happened to Disney back when Disney was really good and, you know, people were hand drawing things. And then all of a sudden they moved to a different art style because it's faster, it's easier to pump out those videos, those movies to a different, people were hand drawing things. And then all of a sudden they moved to a different art style because it's faster, it's easier to pump out those videos, those movies, and the artistic form is lost.
I'll tell you what happened with Disney. They went more towards corporate greed. They started monopolizing things and just sort of stopped thinking about the prospect of making good movies. And now their whole thing is about just appealing to a minority demographic that doesn't exist.
At the moment, my personal belief is that the current AI models and things being made cheapen the art of 2D VTubing. Not in the sense that it's going to be cheaper to buy art, because I don't think that we should praise the idea that, oh, this is going to bring down the cost of 2D VTubing and 2D art because then people will charge less and everything. Because I think that, you know, that people still, artists, quality artists, still need a means to be able to support themselves and their livelihood. But yeah, it does create an oversaturation for sure. But yeah, that's...
Well, some would argue there was already an oversaturation even before AI had decided to make its way into VTubing. There was already a bit of that problem that was essentially going, but I don't think people realized that shit hit the fan until after AI essentially started threatening, you know, the really bad artists that are out there.
That's what I wanted. Again, I did not want to... This is not to berate or belittle Leaflet or anything. This is not diminishing. This is just an example. I was very impressed by this, and I saw it, and I was like, this is why TikTok VTubers are being suppressed in 3D and 2D. This is why. It's because AI is just becoming more and more and more and more accessible to the point where VTubing is seen as AI in their algorithm stuff. Oh yeah, she seems very nice, very cool, absolutely. But yeah, I just wanted to explain and kind of give my thoughts about this because I do think it's super topical.
See, I don't think personally it's like, I don't think what Leaflet put out is why. Like, I understand where she's trying to go with this, but also it's kind of a strange correlation. And I'm pretty sure it's not exactly Leaflet's fault. Because Leaflet, at the end of the day, is trying to make something accessible for everyone to have to give VTubing a go for themselves. This was the whole AI algorithms being, you know, branding, you know, TikTok VTubers and like AI slapped together. It was probably more so to do with the AI algorithm detecting certain imperfections that's seen in AI slop. And I think that's more the reason why it seems to brand those two together from what I personally see. But I can also see the kind of point that she's trying to make. Like, I personally disagree with some pieces of her logic, but I also understand the points that she's trying to make. But like I said, I like Cha-Cha. She's fine. I still hold my meet and greet with her in high regard, where I basically went, "Where's Villian? Where's Villian?" That's still one of the best introductions I could ever give to someone. Just basically make myself look like a rabid Snacker fan. To be honest, I wish I could have pushed the joke further, but it is what it is. I mean, she kept going, yeah, AI bad, but I'm impressed by what she's making. Cha-Cha's trying to have an opinion, but she's not trying to piss off either side of the argument. I think the way I see it, if you're trying so hard not to piss off either side of the argument, you're still probably going to piss people off regardless. So realistically, I would just say just be honest. If this is Cha-Cha being honest, then okay, that's fine. I personally disagree with her logic, but I also understand what she's trying to make, so it's fine. But yeah, that's kind of where things are in the VTuber space. I was going to react to this particular video today, but I am seeing the time right now, and I just think I'm just going to launch a video. I think we're just going to chillax for the last the last few minutes of the stream, because I kind of want to cut it short today. But also, I have a bit of a streamer announcement for everyone. So while I'm launching the game, let's quickly just go to the chatting window real quick. So I actually want to announce that I am still floating because I have my wings out. So I actually want to announce that starting next week, I am going to try and get Eden to do more streams during the time I am away. Because from Tuesday, unfortunately, I will be away once more. But that is because, due to IRL complications, my family is going to be going through a bit of a troubling time because my father is going to be going into surgery. He is okay. He is okay. He is in a very stable condition, but he will have to go into surgery to deal with a health problem. And my family is essentially going to need mine and my sister's and my siblings' support. So we will have to be there for them during that time of need and make sure that they're okay. And then as soon as that's sorted, which could probably take about maybe a week or two, but once that's done, I will be back. I will be back to doing this again. And during that time, I will essentially be, spending some time, editing videos and getting some short form content out and just sort of, getting things together that way. So that's a small announcement I want to make. As of right now, I think today I want to play some Game Boy stuff. I am kind of in the mood of doing some retro stuff, so that is what we are going to do. So let's go to my game window. Where is my emulator? Oh, sorry, not emulator. I meant like my totally real Game Boy that I've just lying around. So can we have the stream title change, please? Can we have the stream category change, please? Thank you so much, Fowls. So I think we're going to go play some more. I think we just went through a glitch. Wait, didn't we just go through this? That was weird. That was weird. But last time we did this particular game, we completed the, Hold on, I think the volume may be a bit too loud. Right. Emulator, that's a paddling. Yeah, it's a paddling. Sorry about that. Yes. So last time we were playing this game, I completed the easy version. So now I'm going to show you the harder version of the Picross challenges. So this is known as Mario's Picross. So over here, we essentially have to go through like a set of different puzzles. And these are set in different zones. So there's a lot of like different zones over here. I don't think we're going to go through all of these today, but I'm just showing like an example. So I think let's start with the first one. Now I'll essentially show you how this works. Here we have the first zone over here, which is the top left corner. Now over here, we essentially have to continue basically constructing a larger piece of the puzzle. So for those that don't understand how this game works, I explained this last stream, but essentially we have these coordinates over here and coordinates up top. We have to fill out these squares according to the coordinates here. There's coordinates where there will be certain gaps and certain coordinates where we have to basically fill out the spaces. If you manage to accidentally chisel the wrong space, you will lose time. And essentially when you lose time, you have about 30 minutes on the clock over here, for example. And if the time runs out, you essentially have to start all over again. So that is the point of Picross. You have to try and fill out to get the picture chiseled in exactly 30 minutes. Otherwise, you lose and it's game over. So like over here. So like I had to account for both spaces, because I have to make sure that it's accounting for every single, it's according to the space from the left, but also the space from the top. So sort of similar with crossword, when you're like, going cross and down, it works in a similar way. This is like a game that I really love playing, especially on my off time whenever I'm like traveling, because it's giving my brain something to do. Especially when I'm like traveling back in the day. This is like a game that I constantly play because it's like a really fun puzzle game, if that makes any sense. So like over here. So like we got these spaces filled out. Now there's some other spaces that we have to essentially fill out. Alright, 11 over here. 10 over here. 9 over here. 7 over there. Now 1 has to go somewhere. This is interesting, because I have to account for where exactly this has to go. This is why I say this is like a harder version, because there's so many ways this could go. I usually try not to do save states. In the past, I would basically try not to do save states, because I feel like that would be cheating otherwise. But at the same time, I also understand when it applies too. Sometimes with this only space here, I have to take a risk, because there's not much I could essentially do. It's like the 2 space could be either here or here, and the 1 could either be here or here. Right, I'm gonna try this. Okay, so this makes sense. It could go either here, it could go either here. I'm gonna try here for this one. Okay, so that's a good start. So now, this space no longer applies. Now it's either between here or here. I'm gonna guess... well, I know I can do 2 over here easily, and that completes this row. Oh, and I can fill over 4 over here too, and it completes this corner. And now basically this is 2, right? So I can't fill this space up, and I can't fill this space out either. So here I can now fill out 3, and that completes this area. Now there's only 2 spaces here that I could fill out, so now I can just do this, and that space is done. And this is one of the 1 spaces done. So now the 1 can either go either here or here. And now 2 can essentially go over here, and that space is done. And also this particular space is done, so now this 2 is done. So now the 1 can essentially go, oh shit. I messed up somewhere. I think we're missing a space somewhere. We're definitely missing a space somewhere. This one can't be done. Oh. Oh, no, duh, because this one's already done, duh. So that's my bad. Now we're missing a space somewhere. We are missing a space in this section. We are missing a section somewhere here. Oh! Cause 13! 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13! So that's 1 section done. So now we can essentially go either down, or here, or here. Let's go over... I'll do this space. Also, the good news about doing the other spaces is that your time resets. So your total time is accounted for the total time that you have done essentially from all the different spaces. This one's interesting. This one's actually a more harder version, I think. I'm gonna try here. Okay, so that works. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's done. Now the 2 can either go here, or here, or here. There's a 5 that can essentially go over here. So I think maybe 1 goes over here, and then that's 2. Then maybe another 5 here? Yes, so either this goes here, or this is the starting point and can go up here. But I think I'm gonna try down here first. Okay, so already I know this could either be here or here. And I know for this one, it's not gonna be here. At least I know that. Well, one thing I can see here is that a 4 can essentially go here. Does that mean a 2 essentially goes here? Yes. So this space is essentially done. I'm just gonna get rid of this because I use that as a marker. Alright, so 12 over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 over here. And there's another 5 that can essentially go either way. Here? Nope. Also, I should mention this. You saw how that was -4? So the penalty I got from the previous map applies here. Now, I forget what happens if you basically run out of time in this space here. I think essentially you can start again from that space, but I actually wouldn't be surprised if you have to start the whole puzzle all over again. So now it's 5 here instead. And then this one is done. So I think now over here, the 5 here applies. And then I can fill 3 here, and then this section is done. And then this section is done. And I need 5 over here too. 3 done. 3 over here. Well, you can't fill a 2 over here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then this section is done. This is interesting. Oh yeah, I just realized this is also done. So, fill these up. Now we have a little bit of a battle going on here. I'm gonna take a risk with this section because I think the 9 is going from here to here. Okay. Yeah, so that makes sense. Now, this is either the 3 or the 1. So I doubt this could be the 3 because there's another 9. I mean, there's another 9 here. Okay, I'm actually gonna try this one next and hopefully go for an 8. Okay, and then this is a 7? Yeah. Okay, so we got the 3 over here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's done. And the 7 over here. 4, 5, 6, 7, done. And now this is done. Now that means this spot, the 9 actually goes here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then fill that space up. Now I believe this is technically the 4, so 4 goes over here, and then the 1 goes over here. Now, the 1 can either... Oh, right, because a 5 essentially goes here, because now I can't fill this space, because 5 can't go there. So now I've figured out where this 1 goes, and then that's 3. Okay, so I'm guessing 1 goes here. This is the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shit! That's not good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That basically opens me up to more penalties. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, well, 4 can essentially go here, so that's filled. 6, and then this one's done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8. Oh, God. Well, there's an 8 over here, so I'm assuming... Oh, well, 6 can't go here, obviously. Yep. 1, 2, yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. And then that section's done. I have about 11 minutes left on the clock. Well, oh! Well, over here, 3 can't go there anymore, so This has to be it. Yeah. And now 4 can't go there either, so... And the 2 is essentially here, and then this spot is filled. Yeah, so 3 essentially goes here, and then this space is filled. And the 3 can essentially go there, and a 4 essentially can't go there. So now this 3 over here... Oh, now the 5 essentially goes here. And then that's filled. Now the 2 can either go here or here. Oh, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then fill that. And then that 2 is essentially done. So now it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. And then 3 here. And that section's done. 2, 3, 4. That section's done. 2 over here. Filled. 2 over here. There we go! We managed to make it. So I feel like it's becoming the shape of a mountain. I think I'm gonna go with the top right. Okay. What the fuck is this? Alright, what are we working with here? Hold on. We can actually turn off the music. That one's not bad. Ooh, I actually like this music. Alright, I'm gonna go with this music. Sometimes I switch the music if I feel like it. Okay. I have a lot to work with here. This one's more complex, which is not good for me. And this is, and also to note, this is left to right, so that means the 9 has to go somewhere here, and the 2 would have to be over here. I'm gonna start with the 9. Right. I'm giving this a shot. Shit! Right. I basically lost 8 minutes, so now I have about 20 minutes left on the clock. I am dreading to see what would happen if I lose time. Fuck me. Alright, I've lost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then... I should have started with the right. That should have been the easiest point. But also, this one easily could have been the 9. Actually, this one easily could have been either the 9 or the 1. Okay, so this was probably the 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ah, I screwed myself over. I overthought it. Four, 5, 6, 7. I don't know why I overthought it. And see, now everything's starting to I'm starting to get some clear picture, but I fucked this up. I dread if I have to end up starting this puzzle all over again. Wait, a 3 is supposed to be here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, duh. The 2 can't even go over here. 3. Then that spot is essentially done. I have about 2 minutes left on the clock. I am not going to be able to make this time. I'm not going to be able to clutch it like I did last time when I played this game, which is a shame. Yeah, fuck. Alright, what happens now? Do I start again? Okay, thank God. Actually, hold on. Forgive me for this. I am going to metagame a little bit. Forgive me for this stream. I am going to metagame this a little bit. Wait, where is my VOD? Because I know my... Where is my VOD? Come on, give me my VOD. Give me my VOD. Where is it? Gee, wait. I know exactly where to go. Right over here. Okay, got it. That's right. That's right, chat. We're metagaming. We are metagaming this. Thankfully, I have a reference. As they say, great artists innovate. Good artists innovate, great artists steal. And besides, I'm the one who made this. Okay. Right. Okay, and... Oh, that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fuck. Oh, I put it in the wrong square. Fuck. I know the one is supposed to go over here. I know 7 definitely goes here, so maybe I'll take a shot. 1, yep, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then that part is done. Alright, so I got this, so I don't technically need the screen anymore. Well, 2 can essentially go here. The 2 can either go there or here. I'm gonna try here. Shit! I think I made that mistake the last time. Fuck! Why am I making so many careless mistakes? Why do you want me to die? So either 2, okay, so 2 can either go here or here. I don't think it's gonna go here. I'm gonna try here. Okay, so yeah. And then that's it. 1, and then either the 5 goes here and here, or it goes like this. Fuck! 3, 4. I almost chiseled. I almost chiseled that spot. I don't know why I was thinking it was a 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just realized what I was doing. Fuck. I was literally saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fuck me. The internet has brain rotted me. The internet truly has brain rotted me. I hate everything, man. Technically, after this point, there can't be any more ones. So, 4 has to be over here somewhere. Okay, so nothing can go over here. Oh, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5. I know. Oh, probably a 3 goes over here. Yep. I'm not too confident about that yet. Well, I know 3 can essentially go here. Wait, no, 2 can essentially go here. Never mind. I feel like this is the only space I can fill. Yep. 2, and then 3 goes over here. And then that's basically the 1. I can't fill any more after that. And now 2 can go over here. Oh, the 3 can essentially go over here. And then 1. So... Man, how bad is it I'm playing myself here sometimes? Ugh. Focus, you can do this. Yes. I got about 3 here. This is the safe option. Oh, okay, so 4, 3, 1. And then 3 over here. Okay. Well, 3 is supposed to go over here, so... Yep. And then fill that. And then a 4 over here. And then that's done. 2, yep. 1, 2, 3, done. And then 2 to finish that off. Alright, this choice feels a bit... Alright, I'm gonna do number 4. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, this section's done. Well, obviously a 3 can't go there, so that's next. Well, a 6 could either go here, but it could also, but something else could also go here. There's 4. Let's go. Okay, I'm going with the spaces where I could potentially fill this, or it could be like this, or it could be like this. So obviously this one can't go here. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that one can't also be filled either, because that's done. But here I can't fill 2, so that's filled. Oh, this section's done. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It could be like this. I know over here that's 6, 3, 2. It could be anyone's game with here and here. But there is also the 1 here too. It's the only space I can fill. Wait, there's no other space here. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's done. And that means the 2 over here goes here. Now the 1 could essentially go. Actually, no. I don't think the 1 can go there. 2, 3, 4. And then this section's done. Then 1's done here. Oh wait, the 2 can't essentially go here, so now this is done. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, done. And then the 3, I think the last one goes here. Okay! Jesus! I made way too many careless mistakes with this one. Wow. I think we're only able to do at least one puzzle today, probably. And I'm already seeing the picture come together. This is definitely a bird. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I swear, if somebody's gonna go back to the VOD and count the amount of unintentional 6-7 jokes that I've made, I am going to lose it. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Go over here. I used to play a lot of this kind on my phone. The ones I put a pic under it so you give a bit more color. That actually would make sense. For this, you basically had no sort of reference. So realistically, you have to rely solely on a bit of memory versus you have to rely a bit on personal memory and like basically paying attention to the number coordinates on the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, I have to watch myself counting now because I know I'm gonna make another unintentional 6-7 joke. I swear to God. I know Fouls, for example, is gonna have so much fun just basically pointing out how many times I basically unintentionally said 6-7. That is something I could potentially see her doing. Oh, 5 can't exactly go theirs. Well, 4 can't exactly go there. And then... just stop caring about the 6-7. I can't, because you know what's gonna happen? When I start basically counting out the numbers again, people are just gonna say, oh, he said it here, he said it here, he said it here, he said it here. And I'm like, guys, I swear to God, I cannot with you people. The gameplay is the same. There's one series that uses the pics to tell the story. Oh, really? I actually don't think I've heard of that. Do you know what the game is called? I feel like this is 4, so obviously that makes sense. And there's nothing I can fill here, so... 8. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Over here it's 2, so... let me search my app list. I don't think I have them installed now. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. This one's a bit of a gamble. Actually, wait, no. The first one's 3 over here, and then there's another 3 here, and then I can fill that out. Basically, now I just have to look for the 1. It could be either here or here. It could also be here or here too. Because 4 essentially, course 4 and 3 essentially go there too. I feel like I'm getting tired of the background music. Let me put on like my background music. His 8 goes over here. That is the 3 over here. I feel stuck here. Actually, I'm gonna try something. Okay. 3 goes over here. The 1 could... there's a few particular spots where the 1 could go. Oh, but there's a 3 that can just also go here. It can also go over here. Look for Somnus Nonogram. They have made quite a few of them. Let me search this up. Sorry, let me just pause the game real quick. Huh. Interesting. I've actually never seen this before. Oh, I can see why that would look similar. Oh! Yeah, that looks like the exact same game, but they did like a really interesting twist on it. That is really cool. I don't know if you guys can see a screenshot of it, but I'm just seeing some of the screenshots for it. Because, admittedly, this is the exact same game. Because it has, the coordinates on the side, and you have to basically fill it out. But it's a lot more colorful, so you can basically see it. But it's essentially the same game. That is awesome. But it kind of does like a really interesting twist on it. The reason I kind of stopped playing it is that it doesn't save your progress in Google Play or your Google Drive. When I switched to my new phone, I lost all my progress. I was pissed. Oh no. That is ass. I'm not gonna lie, that is ass. That is fucking ass. That was kind of my experience when I had like a bootleg version of Mega Man Star Force, the first one. And I was trying to do like a no-save run-through, and it's really hard. It's really hard getting to the game without saving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, Picross and Nonogram are the same thing, like Othello and Reversi. Yeah, very similar looking. It has pretty much the same mechanics. So that is actually pretty cool. I'm gonna try here. Okay, so, yep. And then 2 over here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So that actually gives me a lot more data. So essentially, it saves on the same phone, but once you switch phone, it's gone. Yeah, which is pretty ass, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna try here. Shit! The 5 can't go here. Wait, that's the 1, right? So, obviously that can't go here. Yeah, 7 can't go here either, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's the 1. So 6 could essentially go across like this. But that's like the only 2 spots where 2 could go. What? What? You're telling me a 1 goes here? That makes no sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This section is essentially done. Maybe, oh yeah, now the 7 can go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 2 can essentially go here. Oh, I feel like this could be the 1. Yeah, this is the 1, and then 2 goes here. And then the 2 essentially goes here. So at least that kind of fuck up gave me a bit more data. 2. Now 3 could essentially go here or here. Actually, yeah, those are the only places that could go. And then that section's essentially done too. And then the 5 essentially goes here. And then that section's done. I think, yeah, 3. And then fill that up. So it's pretty much starting to come together. The 2 can either go here or here. Is your Twitch about correct? Looks like it's showing some formatting string. Oh, so backstory about that one. Back in the day, I actually used to program with Python. I wasn't like, super good, but I knew some basics about it. So when I was coming up with my VTuber thing, I wanted to essentially create like a bio that sort of, fits in with that whole cyberpunk aesthetic. So with the theme that my VTuber was doing, so I just kind of went with creating like my parody version of the Python coding language. So I essentially tried to follow that particular formatting string by basically coming up with a fake version of Python. Now, somebody told me it was pretty inaccurate, and obviously I wasn't trying to make it, super accurate or anything like that. And funny enough, the inspiration for that actually came from Zone, who did something similar. Who does something similar with whenever they announce streams or something like that on, unfortunately, Fansly. Even though I have an account on there, I barely use it. It is intended, lol. It looks more like JavaScript than PY. I am familiar with JavaScript, but my intention was to basically make it similar to Python. Oh, wait. Oh, because 4 is done here, so... And 4 is also done here, too, so... And then... Okay, yeah, so 3 goes over here, and then, 2 here, and then... 4 here. Yeah, that particular section's done. Now we just have this top half remaining. So 2 can either go here or here. Oh god, I have about 2 minutes left. Oh god, so I really have to come in with a clutch moment again. Well, 2 can't go here. Oh shit. Shit on a stick. Well, it's 2, right? So the 2 can either go here or here. Oh! Yeah, because this is the only place the 2 can go. And then 2 goes over here. Yeah, so 4, and then 3 over here. Yes! Hold on. The music was playing. Parrot! That definitely looks like a budgie or a parrot. Yes! We did it! Wow, that took way longer than expected. Is that what it's... Wait. So my total time is 80 minutes. Damn. But essentially, I have to fill out a whole picture like this. And there's 4 different sections I have to do. Man, it's pretty hard, so... Right, save. Right. Power off for the time being, because it is about getting around that time. But that was super fun. That was super, super fun. I had lots of fun. And I got some new stuff lined up, so I'm actually really excited for that. I am hoping to announce by around next week, possibly, when I'm going to be doing content stuff on Twitch, on YouTube, actually. So, I'd say I had a lot of fun doing this. To everyone that joined in today, thank you so much for coming in today. So I am wondering what I'm going to do. Also, for those who don't know, like I said, from next week, starting Tuesday, I am going to be away because my family is going through my family is going to be going through a health complication issue. My father's going to be getting surgery. He is okay, but we'll be just coming in to help support them during their time of need. So that's where I'm going to be going. During this time, I'm going to make sure that Eden is going to come in and help with streaming for a little bit. That's currently where we are with that. With this in mind, I think let's go raid somebody real quick. Best wishes and hope your dad has a speedy recovery. Thank you so much, JS. Thank you so much, JS. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. He is going to be okay. He is going to be okay, and I will make sure of that. We will make sure of that. So I think let's go raid. Ooh. I got a toss up between. I am not gonna raid Bao. I am not gonna raid Bao. Okay, so here's why. Bao has me blocked on Twitch as well. The funny thing is she unblocked me on a site like Twitter, but as of right now, I am banned from her stream on Twitch. So even if I wanted to, I can't. Oh, why am I blocked by Bao? I called her out years ago. So essentially what happened was I called her out years ago for a tweet that she essentially made. So it was some old drama, essentially, but it had something to do with the whole Sykkuno situation. Just to put it simply, I'm happy to revisit it. I am happy to revisit this, just to show real quick. So it was... The funny thing is, she's not the only one that did this. It's either... So what I'm thinking is either she personally did this, or one of her moderators did. Because I believe her moderators could have probably found my Twitch and decided to ban me then and there. But it was essentially because of this tweet over here, where she was talking about Sykkuno. And my only gripe with this message, because at first I thought this was, I found this personally weird, but I thought I get what she was trying to say here, so I was trying to be... The only thing that, kind of had me a little bit peeved was this part right here, where it says, just because I don't include every single nuance, exception, possibility, and variation, doesn't mean we're not still having the same conversation. So I was like, okay, if you understand that, so why did you heavily emphasize on the genders in your original tweet? That was my only criticism. And then she essentially crashed out. And then essentially, she ended up liking this particular tweet over here where it's like, men that are crying about this are the same men that cry about us saying we choose the bear. And it's referenced that stupid TikTok where it's like, would you rather be in the forest with a man or a bear? And then when she crashed out on stream, there was a section near the end where she was essentially crashing out over, people criticizing her. Oh, I fucking hate your misandris, or whatever. And she's like, go fix your receding hairline. You ever heard of minoxidil? Yeah, try that. Personally, I found that line funny. But then this next part over here...
Men and, making fun of their hairlines and stuff. And then...
She includes this screenshot. She makes a post in her Discord server where somebody showed it in, a server. And she says, it's mostly pyropups and grifters, so nothing different than the past 5 months for me. I mostly had an issue with her blaming pyropups because pyropups are essentially Cinder's fans, and they had nothing to do with this. So they were essentially getting implicated in something that they had no involvement in, because a lot of them from who I interacted with are usually pretty chill. So when I saw that they were essentially getting blamed for this, I was like, no, I am not gonna let you do this to them. So I'm gonna call you out. And it was one night, I essentially put that tweet up, and then that was it. I was gonna go sleep after that. And my phone started blowing up. My phone started blowing up, and all of these notifications were coming in, and I was like, oh shit, what have I done? Like, half regret, half like complete shock that it essentially happened. But it was essentially because of that. It was essentially because of my video. The drama essentially got as big as it did. And then I came back after it was finally revealed that the tweet was about Sykkuno. And there was a whole subset of other issues with that as well. So I was like, okay, I see how it is. Because I now know what that tweet was talking about, you deserve more criticism for that. So either she was just that mad, or her mods were, and they're simps, and that's still funny. I think it could be both. It could be both, because at one point she had me blocked on Twitter, but then at some point later she unblocked me on Twitter, which I found personally interesting. I just personally didn't care, because I was just already planning to go on with my life and just do other things and make more content for myself. I just didn't care that much that she had unblocked me. I was like, huh, that's interesting. Okay, anyways, let's just continue. So I think let's go raid. I actually want to personally go raid, I know who we should raid today. So today, unblocking maybe because Twitter block is limited and need to block someone new. I don't know. It's possible. But I personally wouldn't know. But anyways, we're going to go raid somebody I really like. We're going to go raid Kathy Reyna. Today, it's her birthday week, so we're going to go send her our best wishes and our best happy birthdays from all of us to her. That is what we're going to do. So make sure you go to a stream and wish her a happy birthday. This will be the birthday message. But yeah. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to be away from next week. From Tuesday, where I'll be tending the family. And I'll announce this later on. Thanks so much for everyone for joining. Make sure you go follow my X. Make sure you go follow my YouTube. Make sure you go follow my Twitch. All that good stuff. And if you'd like to interact with me, make sure you go interact with my Discord over here. I post there every day. All that good stuff. Thanks so much for joining, guys. I will see you again very soon. Zheel signing out.